Hey all, my name's Cameron. I'm one of the In Situ Fellows here at Queens Museum, and I guess today I want to talk about this Futurama booklet from the General Motors Pavilion in the 65 World's Fair. I think this book really stuck out to me because of its sort of like, I've been telling people that I find it a really like kind of sinister document. The Futurama exhibit was this, I guess it was the second actual iteration of it. It was it was first conceived for the 39 World's Fair, and then they brought it back even bigger than better for 64 and 65. And you guys know General Motors, they make cars, navigation systems, all these other things. But the Futurama tent was supposed to be this big showcase of what the future would be, what the world of tomorrow would look like. And initially, like, going through, it's pretty like simple stuff. It's just like they're different members of the different teams and all these things. But as you go in, okay, so the book, what drew me to it was the actual printed transcript of the narration that would play throughout the Futurama exhibit. So I guess just to give you some oversight of what that thing actually looked like, it was this, people would get into this little like cart. It looked like something you would sit in at a roller coaster or something. They get into this thing and go through the world of tomorrow. Like, you go through this track and you look at all these different versions of what General Motors thought the world would look like in the future. And what really tripped me out was just how much that future was built on conquest, expansion, extraction of resources. It starts off with going through the moon and how humankind has created settlements on the moon, created research centers, and is able to extract new minerals and ores from the moon's surface, which is also something that we are still talking about doing today, right? But then it goes down to Antarctica and these new research centers that are popping up. And then we go down to the ocean, and they're building hotels in the ocean. They're creating new space lasers and pipes to mine the ocean for all of its wealth, and creating highways down below on the ocean. Highways are a big thing that continue to pop up throughout this entire thing, which is, I think, also a really interesting point of context too, because this is obviously like 64 and 65. This is when, we're about 10 years out from Eisenhower's Highway Act, which started to lay the groundwork for the state highway systems that we see today that have really carved up Black, brown, low-income neighborhoods. This is also obviously at the World's Fair, which is one of Robert Moses's baby, who was also an architect of the highway system. So there's like these little links that continue to pop up. There are a few, I guess, like sort of quotes too that stuck out to me. There's a section here where they're talking about the jungles, like the tropics, the jungles in South America and Africa. They read, "I've seen the future, it is now tomorrow. Now tech has found a way to penetrate and control the wild profusion of this wonder world. A jungle road is built in one continuous loop. A searing ray of light, the laser beam cuts through the trees, then a giant machine, a factory on wheels, grinds the stumps and jungle growth. Sets the firm foundation for the surface slabs, now the road is paved. These forest highways now bring to the depths of the tropic world the goods and progress of prosperity, and creating productive communities that can enter the profitability markets of the world, offering to us all enchanting tours of the storybook forests of tropic lands." So like, this is obviously presented as this really like exciting new good thing, the jungles are being linked to the world, right? But when I see this, I see like a big, like they said, a large ray of light, a big laser cutting through the jungle, and histories, people in it. There's like no real mention of the people in any of these areas that presumably probably live in a lot of these places, or people, wildlife, however, like wildlife habitats, all these things, right? There's no mention of any of that in here. So, and then on top of all that, they want to create tours inside the remains of this like newly devastated land, right? It's all just like expansion and extraction. So that was really like, I feel like that's sort of the tone of this whole thing. I think, as you look through the videos of the tour itself, again, like going back to the idea of the people being left out of the narration, there's also like no people or figures or anything like in any of the little like diorama sets that they made here too. The only people in attendance are the ones that are on the ride, right? The ones that are presumably going to be the ones to maybe profit from this. One of the closing lines of the narration is, "People live today where they will, neither terrain nor distance a deterrent to where the men of the city build their homes. All roads lead to, as they always had for centuries, to the great centers of commerce and communications, as the Continental Highway now leads us to the city of tomorrow. The striving of man, his ambitions and achievements, all mirrored in the face of its cities." And that's something I think a lot about too, like what do our cities, our civilizations, our, I guess like the systems we make, what do they say about us as a people? And for this, like when I look at this like kind of like blueprint for a future civilization, it seems very cold, it seems very violent, it seems very dystopian, I guess. But that's the world that these guys want to create, right? I guess another point of important context at the same time. So there's like this world of tomorrow stuff that they were showcasing, but there are also displays. I haven't been able to find any photos of this, but they're talking about it in another one of the books in the archive. GM was also at the time doing, to make sure I'm saying this right, because it was wild. But okay, so at the same time they were showing this stuff, they were also showcasing the pioneering missile navigation and guidance technologies that they were developing for the government as well. And then they were also showing off this new high velocity gun that they were making for spacecrafts that were made so they could defend themselves from whenever the spaceships would encounter when they were probing for minerals in space. So again, it's this very sort of like militaristic, maybe not, like militaristic, very like thinking about everything as a threat. Everything is a threat. Everything needs to be like prepared for conquest. Everything needs to be like at service of us. And if it's not in service of us, we have to make it in service of us. And that feels like this very like common running theme throughout this entire sort of like attraction to me when I look at it.